When a new expansion comes out, a lot of people get excited for probably a lot of different reasons. I think most of the focus is always going to end up being on the end game, though. It makes sense, right? Because the end game is the point of the game that you'll be playing for the longest. You'll get to max level pretty quickly, and then you'll be doing whatever end game activities are offered for potentially 2+ years. But the thing I'm the most excited about with Dragonflight is that there's a recommitment to the entire game seemingly happening. We already talked about a lot of the behind the scenes changes, but the thing I love the most about this expansion is that the talent system is going to revolutionize leveling as well as endgame content. This was always the thing that I felt was missing the most from leveling. Having good things that you could interact with your character's development while you're actually leveling. It's one thing that's really strong about Classic and even through Wrath of the Lich King with the talents, but those talents were pretty boring and honestly kind of basic for a lot of the levels. You'd really only have about 7 or 8 levels throughout the whole time when it would actually be exciting. This system, on the other hand, seems to promise something even greater than that, and we aim to test it today with something a little different. The thing that I'm the most excited about with the talents is the diversity of builds that seemingly are going to be possible. It's not going to be quite like it was in Classic, where you can play like a rep paladin as a healer or something like that, but it's not too far off, and we are taking a look at the strongest example of it today. That is the enhancement shaman. Now, their talents are great, and I already have a whole video on that as it stands, but I've been dabbling with this concept of challenge runs for a long time when I'm talking about leveling challenges, and this one is probably the one I'm the most interested in. I was always kind of unable to get it to happen. The two-handed enhancement shaman. If you played in Classic, you'll know that that was a very flavorful and unique time for the class, and as early as the TBC pre-patch went away almost exclusively. But it is back today, and I'm not sure for how long, so I want to get this started as fast as possible. The big problem with this on live WoW is that the Storm Strike ability is not usable with a two-handed weapon. Now, there's a lot of easy solutions to this, but I think Blizzard just doesn't want people to actually use two-handers for a few reasons. Obviously, there is no agi two-handers that they can use other than pole arms. It's still very possible to do on live WoW, but the problem with it is it has no actual core rotational spell that they could use frequently. It's basically just a bunch of small CDs and you're just sitting there auto-attacking, which works out fine, but there's a spell that was added in Shadowlands called Primal Strike, which would be perfect for it. Right now on the Dragonflight Alpha, when you take the Storm Strike talent, it does not overlap Primal Strike. In live WoW, when you switch to Enhance, it immediately gets rid of Primal Strike and just gives you Storm Strike instead. So there's no way you can actually use all the stuff that Enhance has in the kit because you're just losing Primal Strike. It's only real spell that you can use frequently. On the Dragonflight Alpha, luckily that is not the case, but they did talk about Rune Strike for Blood DK, which is a very similar thing, not being overlapped by Heart Strike, and that was a bug. They mentioned it specifically for Death Knight, so we'll see if it happens for Shaman. That's why we're getting right into it today. So let's take a look. My goals are very simple. Level as much as I can, see as much of the talent trees as I can, and explain to you why this is so fun and so interesting. So let's get right into it. The concepts work pretty well just on a no-spec shaman on live. You know, you just apply Flame Shock and just kind of use Primal Strike as often as you can and just let that damage carry you. There's things like Flame Tongue Weapon and, you know, weapon enchants in general, and then Lightning Shield as well will do a small amount of damage, but it plays pretty much like a classic character. This is one of the things I've been saying a lot about the leveling challenges I've done. They've always been reductionary in the face of the complexity that the game offers. Just trying to enjoy the content, trying to enjoy the basics of the class element. Typically, you know, having additional things like the Nomad challenge associated with it has been very fun, and we are going to do that again in this challenge. I won't focus too much on it because honestly it's not really that big of a deal for this challenge, but the Nomad leveling challenge is going to restrict us to only using gear that we find, not get given, meaning pretty much only BOEs will ever be equipped. Anything we get luckily throughout the world or from treasures or from rares. No quest rewards or anything like that. And the other big thing is we will never use any quick travel. This means flight paths. This means Hearthstone as well. Here's the first example of why I love the Nomad leveling challenge. There's just a treasure here that's going to give experience, but it also might give an item that we might potentially wear. It's a white item, but it's going on. It's got 1 more armor. But in terms of all the challenges that are reductionary in measure, the Shaman one is probably the one that interests me the most because I feel like Shaman is a really interesting class in Classic, and it's actually probably the class that is the most preserved in that same playstyle in today's game. It's just missing one thing, and that is the ability to play two-handed Enhanced Shaman. So we don't even really need to play no-spec Shaman to get get what we're looking for that type of experience. And that's why I'm so excited about doing it again here on the alpha, because now we're able to reduce things in a way that make it feel a lot more engaging, but not actually reduce it in a way that we have very few spells and very little things to look forward to. Also have a rare here. Look at this. First time. Obviously nobody in these zones, probably literally the first person to kill it on these servers. Typically the Nomad challenge isn't necessarily that challenging per se, but it offers just enough mixture of exploration versus difficulty to kind of offset the things that are a little bit unfun about WoW at times. You know, it's a little bit too fast paced, a little bit too samey, and there's sometimes really no interest in, you know, you'll be fighting mobs and nothing's really going on. So making things matter a little bit more, but also making the world exploration matter a lot more is definitely my goal. And I think it's going to line up perfectly with what we're doing here. We've completed our first quest. We're going to go turn them in and we're going to ding 10 and get to experience the talent system from the ground up for the first time in Dragonflight. And honestly, it is so exciting. I really cannot wait. But I want to tell you, if you're interested in watching this leveling challenge, make sure you check down below, because all of the episodes that are published will be in a playlist. Everything but this episode will be unlisted. These types of playthroughs tend to take extremely long, so some of them could be 30 to 40 episodes. I don't expect this one to take that long, but typically I also wouldn't publish them at all until they're completed, just to make sure I finish them. But I don't feel like actually finishing this one on the alpha is very important to anybody. I'm doing it mostly just to test content, so hopefully double dipping in the alpha process, but also just for fun. We just want to experiment and see what the future ones might look like. So this one will be updated as I finish it, but if you're watching this episode now, there's probably at least 1 or 2 more episodes you can check out in the playlist. Here we are. Let's turn in the quest and we will ding 10 and begin the playthrough properly. You now have the ability to choose a specialization, and I've also been thinking about what this will look like when we actually try to do no spec characters again. Won't talk about that too much since we're definitely going enhanced here, but I'm thinking there might still be ways to access talents. Otherwise, we'll probably just choose a specialization that aligns the most with the playthrough's goals, and then just only take the class talents. So here we have the first look at the talent system, and already out of the gate, I'm extremely excited, and I know exactly what I'm going to pick. Enhancement Shaman has a really cool actual enhanced tree as well, but the Shaman class tree has some of the coolest interactions I've seen out of any classes. Flurry is something I've always adored, and I know it's not as powerful as it used to be, but seeing that attack speed buff happen, especially after crits, makes really the class feel alive to me. I love the focus on auto attack damage in the early days, and I love how Enhanced still manages to retain that today. We now have our first talent, and it is going to be one that I'm actually probably one of the most excited about in the entire tree, but we still don't have a point in Enhanced yet, so let's get to a level 11 next and see what happens. Another cool thing about this playthrough is we get to see a lot of the new UI stuff and see it in action too, because it's actually a lot cooler than you think. You even have the new cast bars on the plates as well, which I think a lot of people think is going to change in the future. There's even a new breath bar too, so they're really taking the time to try to modernize the look of this game. And one place I think you can see that clearly is with professions. So I already made a video on professions, hopefully you guys have seen it, but they're really changing at least even the base UI for professions to be vastly different. Not exactly sure how a lot of this stuff is going to interact with actual low-level profession stuff, but it's all still here, so we might check it out. I probably won't actually do anything with the profession, but we'll pick it up, do some skinning, see if anything changes, any noticeable differences as well along through the playthrough. Well, our questing for this episode is complete, and just like where we ding 10, we will again ding 11. And now the moment of truth. We have the Storm Strike spell, which says specifically it requires a one-handed melee weapon, like I said, which would replace Primal Strike as soon as we take it in live WoW. We're going to go ahead and take that and apply the change, and as you're going to see, they are still separate spells. So that's what makes this challenging interesting. A lot of the core spells simply will not work, but as long as we have something that we can reliably do damage with, we should still be good, and I think it's going to be very fun to see how that works. I did a similar challenge in the Shadowlands Alpha, and it was very fun because the PvP talents for the class are very diverse and very interesting as well, and they make the class feel really interesting. As you see, Primal Strike still working here, so no issues whatsoever. Who knows for how long that lasts, so let's give it our best. We're also eventually going to have to take Lava Lash, but we're looking forward to getting a lot of this stuff on the left side. Really these 4 talents here are so fun, and they're really going to make this playthrough a lot more interesting. So I hope that you'll join me on this journey. Again, everything is going to be in a playlist. I'll have the playlist linked in the comment section and in the description, everything, so you can check out what's there. I'm not exactly sure how long we'll be able to play it this weekend, but I have a lot of free time, and I am really enjoying spending it on the Dragonflight Alpha. So I hope that you guys will stick around for that. In the next episode, we're going to be going to probably my favorite zone to level in ever. So hope you'll stay tuned. Thank you for watching. We will see you guys in the next video.